Of all the bars and clubs of Cyberpunk, only one manages to feel sort of warm, and I think what gives the Coyote Cojo that sort of comfort is largely because of its owner and proprietor, the fittingly dubbed Mama Wells. Mama Wells is a minor character with a lot of punch, as a woman who loses her only child, the famous son of Heywood, Jackie Wells. But there's a lot more to this lady than what meets the eye. There's an admirable strength in her character, as well as faults that I think many people can relate to when it comes to, well, moms. In the end, she's one of the few characters who is almost always there to offer comfort and prayers for V, her son's closest friend. Heyo, it's Liddy, and welcome to Shaped by Stories with Bela's head in the background again, where we unpack how characters shape stories and how stories shape us. Let's get into it. Guadalupe Alejandra Wells is a lifelong resident of Heywood, home of the Valentinos of Night City. Whether or not Lupe, as many call her, was a full-blown member of the Valentinos or just affiliated with them is up for debate. We don't know if she was ever fighting any gang wars or taking on gigs and all that, but she's certainly got a long history with the gang. Everyone in Heywood knows Mama Wells' name by 2077, and people speak it with great respect. Her bar, the Coyote Cojo, is the most well-known Valentino hangout in the district, and even her bartender Pepe is affiliated with the gang. In her youth, Lupe married a Valentino named Raul, and with him she had her only child, Jackie. But Raul was abusive, and he would regularly beat his wife and son, particularly with a leather belt that V can find in Jackie's garage. When Jackie was old enough and strong enough, one day he fought back and nearly beat his father to death. Jackie told him that he would finish the job if he ever came back, and that was the last mother and son ever saw of Raul. While I'm sure the fear of this man lingered for quite some time in their household, like when my mom ran away from her abusive father and then down the line left her abusive husband, even decades later, the fear of reprisal from both men was still very present. Time would have helped Lupe and Jackie take back their lives. Lupe, at some point, became known in Heywood as Mama Wells, largely due to her manner in running her bar. Lupe regularly, even in 2077, invites Jackie's friend V over for dinner. She can invite Jackie's girlfriend Misty over too, even after Jackie's death. She really seems to be the kind of lady who expresses love through food, a lot like my mom as well in that sense, so that definitely rings some bells for me. You can only imagine how much of a shoulder to cry on she may have been for some of Jackie's friends when they were growing up. How much of a community mother she would have been for Valentinos. In 2077, she's basically under the gang's protection, and it's hard not to understand why. Lots of people have a soft spot for this lady with this big heart. But she also takes no shit. People know better than to start actual trouble in the Coyote. Even without the threat of the Valentinos hanging over them, V can actually use Mama Wells' name to stop some Valentinos for causing some trouble in the Coyote when a couple of them are trying to shake down a really drunk guy for some money. Dropping her name and also a mention of her shotgun is enough to make them reconsider their choices in life and walk out the bar. This kind of makes me wonder if Mama Wells has far more of a storied past, potentially as a more gun-blazing member of the Valentinos, because it seems like her name is not just an empty threat. There's something there. During her son's early adulthood, he joined up with the Valentinos. Now, it's said that Lupe wasn't super thrilled about this. She wanted Jackie as far away from a life of violence as possible. She recounts one story where her greatest fears almost came true, when Jackie, only 19 years old, was injured in a gang war between Maelstrom and the Valentinos. Jackie narrowly escaped death, but he tried to make his mother feel better by saying that he was bulletproof. Jackie could see that this did not comfort her in the way he was hoping, and it was here that he gave her his Valentino ring. A promise that he wouldn't let his time in the gang end in the way his mother feared. He was done with the Valentinos for his mother's sake. But any relief Mama Wells may have felt was short-lived, because Jackie still sought out the life of a merc. As a solo, Jackie took on lots of odd jobs, right up to his meeting with V 10 years later. But still, Jackie always came home at the end of the day. Jackie also had a number of girlfriends during this time, but Mama Wells's well-known favorite was a Haywood girl named Camila. But Camila and Jackie were not meant to be, because Jackie's heart was made for Misty. One of Mama Wells's most glaring issues is how she ostracizes Misty Olszewski. The way that she rejects her without really even knowing her. It's a very stereotypical, you're not good enough for my son kind of deal. We don't know exactly what Mama Wells has against Misty, though in Misty's own words, it is that she simply wasn't Camila. She wasn't the favorite, preferred girl for Jackie. I'm kind of wondering, though, if it's a religious thing too, religious cultural thing maybe, because Mama Wells seems very strong in her faith, presumably the Catholicism practiced by many residents of Haywood. Misty, this gothy punk girl showing up with her crystals and her chakras and all her tarot cards, might be a relatively crazy thing for Mama Wells. She might be like, oh my god, holding up a crucifix. But Jackie never let any harsh judgment of his mother's stop him from loving Misty. You can't ignore how much it would have sucked for Jackie to hear his mom talking shit about the girl that he loved in the way that Mama Wells does. She calls Misty something along the lines of a little whore to V at Jackie's Ofrenda. But Jackie still made a point to make Misty a present part of his life. Despite these tensions, Jackie still wanted to provide a better future for both his mother and for Misty, and that was what a lot of what he did in life was for. 100% Jackie had great ambitions, he was a solo through and through, but at his core, he wanted to look after the people he loved most. In 2076, Jackie meets V, or at least joins up with them, life path dependent. But these two need a place to stay, and Mama Wells lets them both stay with her for the next 6 months. Like, yeah, Jackie's her son, of course she's fine with Jackie being there, but like, V's a complete stranger in 2 out of 3 life paths, and I sort of doubt that V ever met Mama Wells in the Corpo life path. She takes on this person as a tenant in her house, not even as a tenant, she basically becomes like a mother figure to V. Mama Wells has a big heart and she does check in on V. She does miss V coming to see her later on in the game. And as big as her heart is, a lot of her heart is filled with worry about Jackie. We can actually overhear a final call between mother and son just outside the doors to the afterlife, which is some grim foreshadowing. And it's just, yeah, I hate interrupting this phone call by like coming too close. I like to just back up and let them have that final talk. As we all know, Jackie is flatlined from the events of the heist. Should you send his body back to Vic with the aim of cleaning him up so his mom doesn't have to see him bloodied, his body is actually stolen by Arasaka. Mama Wells is, of course, devastated that she doesn't even have her son's remains to grieve over. I did this in my first playthrough because my thought was, oh, I don't want Mama Wells to see Jackie like this. Vic can clean him up. But yeah, then we all know what happened then. But Jackie's body is safe in Valentino territory should you tell Delamain to take Jackie right back to her. I'm sure Mama Wells has seen some horrible things in her time. One does not reach her age in Night City, perhaps in her 50s or 60s, without seeing some shit. But here, her worst fear was basically dropped off right at her front door. I'm hoping she had Pepe with her because that would have been horrific to deal with, especially if she was alone. Not long after Jackie's cremated, Mama Wells begins planning an ofrenda for her son, inviting V and also scolding V for staying away for so long. She then gives V access to Jackie's garage so they can find something to bring to the ofrenda while she goes about planning the gathering. Now, an interesting detail here, if you listen into Mama Wells's calls when she's trying to organize the Ofrenda and get everybody ready for it, she actually says to one of the people she's calling to order drinks and such that her name is Montserrat Wells. And at first I was like, is this an oversight from a previous storyline and a previous iteration of the script that was just left over? But then when you're actually at the Ofrenda and you're walking around listening to everybody, you can see people referring to her as Lupe still. So now I'm wondering, was Montserrat Mama Wells's name in the street or something like that? Like, a lot of the time people in Cyberpunk, usually solos, but I'm sure that like there's all kinds of people who basically take on stage names for their work in the city. Like maybe when if she was with the Valentinos as an actual like upfront ganger, like maybe that was her name, and maybe she drops it now when she needs the respect or power that name still holds. It would explain why people fear her, not just for the Valentinos protecting her, but, you know, actually fear and respect her. I don't know, it would be cool. Short story about Mama Wells back in her youth. This might also explain why she was so against Jackie being in the Valentinos, in the sense that she would have seen just how badly things can go. Like, there's a level of course, motherly concern, but then there may be another layer of, yeah, I saw some horrible things back in the day, and it's terrifying to think of that happening to Jackie. Mama Wells gathers a large crowd of Valentinos and Haywood residents for Jackie's Ofrenda. A lot of people respected and loved Jackie for being the guy of honor that he was. Mama Wells thanks V for coming and for helping, and can actually give V the keys to Jackie's Ark, which is a great bike. I crash it all the time. And it's here that V can make a really important decision in regards to how Misty and Mama Wells heal from their loss. You can overhear Isabella Fusino, who actually loses her own daughter in one of Padre's gigs, remark on how Lupe's handling the loss pretty good. But you know, as strong as Mama Wells is, she's gotta be just torn the hell up on the inside. And you understand why. No parent should ever have to grieve over the ashes of their child. As mentioned earlier, Mama Wells calls Misty a very cruel name and scoffs at her presence at the Ofrenda. And it's here that V can tell her just how important Misty was to her son. Indeed, V would know. V just witnessed that mandala in Jackie's garage, locked away in his most private space, his metaphorical heart in a way. Jackie kept Misty close to his heart, just as he did his mother, as we can see her in that family portrait right by his desk. These are the two people who were most important to Jackie in life, and they're still here, but if Mama Wells continues along this path, then they're both just going to be even more hurt in the end. Mama Wells is at first taken aback by V calling her out on her poor treatment of Misty, but out of respect for V, invites Misty to dinner that night. We can find out later, following the Ofrenda, a couple things. First of all, should we talk to Padre about keeping an eye out for Mama Wells? He assures V that no one is ever gonna hurt her, and that he himself will keep a personal eye on her too, should she ever need someone to talk to. So she has a community to help prop her up in her grief. But the next thing, when we go speak to Misty, is that Mama Wells has done a complete 180 with her. She is fawning over Misty. She's inviting her over for dinner all the time, and even though Misty tells her she's vegan, Mama Wells still makes her meat dishes. Misty expresses discomfort with how much Mama Wells has attached herself to her, finding it a bit suffocating. She's sort of being a replacement child in a way for Jackie. Like, for sure, it's not the healthiest form of grieving, transferring her motherly love to a girl who she, up until very recently, was quite nasty to, while also bulldozing over her own personal boundaries and her own personal way of grieving. But in the end, I think that the fact that these two are able to talk to each other now does lead to a very meaningful relationship for both women at the end of the story. Mama Wells prays for V in a lot of the more tragic endings of Cyberpunk 2077, but in the endings where V is still alive and in Night City, she invites V over for dinner. She still wants V to be a part of her life and to just, you know, feed them food. There is one where she gets kind of angry at V, and that is the star ending. She is angry that V has left Night City with the Nomads. Understandable considering the fact that in-universe Nomads have a not-so-great reputation with a lot of people. Yeah, I think with Jackie gone, she is probably very scared of being lonely. But in the Phantom Liberty ending, Mama Wells doesn't contact V. But that doesn't mean we don't see her influence in this ending. In Misty, who picks V up and dusts them off after a particularly depressing reintroduction to the City of Dreams. Misty wears Jackie's jacket even 2 years after his death, as she prepares to leave Night City. But she also sports a very familiar haircut, not unlike Mama Wells's. This could just be a styling choice by the devs, but I don't know. After reading the Cyberpunk 2077 book, no coincidence, let's just say I'm inclined to imply the titular logic here as well. I'd like to think that Misty did actually come to accept Mama Wells as family, and that she carries her chats and prayers with her wherever she goes. Maybe Misty picked up some of that Montserrat toughness to help her withstand the unfortunate downsides of the world that they live in. And maybe, just maybe, through Misty, Mama Wells can open up a bit. Maybe she learned a few more things about letting go, about not jumping the gun and judging a person first off. Maybe Mama Wells, through an increasingly healthy relationship with Misty, has done a lot to live her life these past 2 years, even without her son. Life doesn't end until it ends. Until then, we must do our best to live it well, in a way our loved ones would hope we would, in the way Jackie would hope for his mother. Thank you so much for watching the Mama Wells video. I don't know, I hope Mama Wells goes and visits Misty when she goes on her trip to Europe in the Phantom Liberty ending. Mama Wells deserves to get out of Night City, poor lady. In a game full of very unhappy endings, it is nice to hope that maybe this one can be a more bittersweet one instead of just a completely depressing, soul-crushing one. So I'll have a bit of hope there for Misty and for Mama Wells. Thank you so much to my members. As always, members get early access to all of my videos as soon as they are uploaded to YouTube, so you don't have to wait. Members also get to see the blooper reels. The other day, my dad showed up when I was recording one of these videos. Now I'm like, man, maybe my dad should take over the show. So members are gonna see that clip soon. Thank you so much to everybody for watching, for liking, subscribing. It helps me out a lot. And I will see you again in the next one. Goodbye.